The Lunaverse, Epilogue by Rainbow Double Dash, Season. Born to the Purple. Death is usually not a singular event. Rather, it is a process. As the visual systems of a living creature fail and it slips away into whatever comes after death, this was equally true for creatures of pure magic, including liches. Almost everything Grogar had been was gone, purged by the elements of harmony. The lich was dead and would never come back to life. Yet some of its power lingered in the blackened bones that made up the skeleton. Not much, and it was fading fast. But there was enough to jealously hold on to something that did not belong to it for just a little while longer. But only a little while. As the sun rose across the Isle of Tambleon, the last of Grogar's power finally gave out. In physical terms, this was shown by a crack in the demon ram's black skull. In his forehead, this split the skull in twain. In magical terms, it meant that the stolen soul that had been the Lich's first and only victim after Apophisius was released. His soul raced from its former prison like it was being chased. It was fading fast, being pulled beyond the pale, but his former home was intact. It was just close enough that there was a flash of white hot flash of light in his eyes. As they came back into focus, he blinked rapidly. There was air, and he sucked it in, breathing it deeply in and out in great gasping breaths. There was pain, a lot of it, but it was over in an instant, before he even had a chance to cry out. I'm alive? Bray asked. The restful part of Bray's mind found that to be impossible. The majority of Bray's mind, however, simply accepted it. The Donkey Prince looked around. He was lying on a smooth, tiled floor that was quite familiar, remarkably like the floor of Spellhold, to be precise. The lighting was odd, though, perhaps because the place had never been lit by natural light before. Michael Walls explained that. The floor of Spellhold was exposed to the open air, as its walls, its ceiling, and everything that was supposed to be in it were missing. He could only guess that something had set out the teleportation matrix that had been setting up before. Bray stood, looking around confusedly. Spellhold was gone, and the city beyond. Tamerlane was in ruins. Fires burned in several cities across the city's blocks. The devastation had been caused by the battle between 2,000 years previous to the doubled. There were freshly destroyed buildings, broken streets, burned park. The castle of Tambleon itself, however, seemed intact, given that the moat that surrounded it and the 100 feet of cobblestone between the moat and castle, the city's fires were unlikely to spread there. Bray began to trot, looking around, trying to figure out what had happened. He followed Tambleon's main road, carefully avoiding the fires, though most of them seemed to have burned themselves out. It was long before he was at the city's main gates. Therefore, looking down at the black skeleton of the gigantic ram, its skull split too. Bray stood still a moment. Grogar was dead. He was dead. For real this time. The Alcor was supposed to kill him. He was gone. Gone. Ha! Bray exclaimed, leaping forward and bringing a hoof down to the black skull. The bone proved brittle, and it shattered easily and went to the donkey's stump. He laughed aloud as he brought his hose down again, and again on the former demon ram, utterly destroying the skeleton. By the time he was done, he was panting, swaying, and swearing a massive grin. While the skeleton was nothing more than shards of dust. I'm alive! Bray exclaimed happily, running around Grogar's skeleton happily. I'm alive! Grogar is dead, and Bray lives! Long live King Bray! Long live King Bray! The donkey stopped, chuckled to himself. Now to get to work, he exclaimed, flying proudly back towards his castle. First order of business, get these fires out. Easy. Conjuring water was simple enough. Bray stopped after a moment, glancing up. His head was still on Adorn. His mane was uncovered, as he remembered that Grogar had taken his turban and, more importantly, destroyed the gemstone that Bray needed to cast any spells. Even worse, it had already been his backup gemstone, the former one having been destroyed by Celestia and those short-eared simpleton ponies. For the time being, Bray had no ability to cast any spells whatsoever. Donkey Prince considered. No matter, he declared, pursuing his character back at sea. I can create a new gemstone easily. I can create them by the dozens. I have the resources in the castle, and the books right there in spell. Oh. Lies quite suddenly. Never really learned how to create the magical gemstones that Donkey needed to cast their spell. Yeah, Nito. That was servants before. And after Grogar killed the servants, and in fact everyone on the island, Bray still hadn't learned. Information on how all had been contained in Spellhold, right next to the castle, there had been reason to. Oh, oh no, the donkey breathed. There's King Bray of Tambleon, a city that lay in ruins, a kingdom dead 2,000 years thanks to his own actions. There's King Bray of Tambleon, a Moorian sorcerer who knew dozens, if not hundreds of spells, but no ability to cast them now. There's King Bray of Tambleon, alone in an island in the middle of a wide sea, his only hope of rescue being to one of the two alicorns, both who hated him immensely, but decided to check out upon him. There's King Bray of Tambleon, murderer of his entire people.
He was King Bray of Tambleon, and he wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. Ceremonies of light and dark. The conflicting need to either eat or sleep occupies its 6 ponies as Luna teleported him back to Ponyville after making a brief stop on Wingsong to ensure that the ship hadn't been attacked by Solarth at any point. In the end, sleep had won out, and so Luna had brought each of them home. Carrot Top a little greener for the teleporting experience, but not exactly minding it as an alternative to Wingsong. Once he asked Luna why she hadn't just teleported him straight to Tambleon in the first place, the Alicorn had gone on about the interlacing of teleportation magic, with the then phasing in the city, and the odd effects it would have had. Carrot Top didn't understand most of the explanation, but she did know that it gave Luna a chance to talk about and focus on something other than Corona, which the farmer suspected the princess desperately needed. Carrot Top found that her farm was now home to several pitched tents, the Cult Scouts having apparently turned their trip to Ponyville into an impromptu camping trip in addition to a farming expedition. She also saw, though, that her fields seemed to have been well tended to over her absence. Luna said that she would have had to move off tomorrow, and asked Carrot Top to join her at Trixie's home the following afternoon. Nerve probably mostly wanted to sleep through the following afternoon, and quite possibly the one following it as well, but had agreed. And so, after 10 rounds of a dreamless sleep and a long hot bath, Carrot Top found herself once again in Trixie's living room alongside her friends. But not Princess Luna. Nerve Pony raised an eyebrow as she joined them. Apparently, the last had arrived. "Where's the princess?" she asked. She noted that, like her, every pony had their element foci with them, though not every pony was wearing them. Raindrops made the answer, but Charlie reached out and placed a hoof over her mouth. "No, but this would be a surprise," she insisted. Carrot Top looked strangely at Charlie, but the Trickster only grinned playfully. Deciding to let her friend have fun, she trotted over to one of Trixie's couches and sat down on it, next to the representative herself. "So," she said. "Yeah," Lyra said. She was holding onto her lyre, storming it gently. "That happened." Carrot Top pressed her lips tightly together, looking at her friends. With hours of time and leagues of distance now between them and Tambleon, the six had at last begun to come down from their adrenaline highs, with their focus slowly on what was ahead, rather than remembering what had already passed. Just how close to disaster they had been setting a hoof on Tambleon. Lyra's hooves on her lyre moved slowly, deliberately. Hiding, Carrot Top noted, a slight tremble to them. Carrot Top was sitting with her eyes closed, breathing in and out steadily, focusing entirely on that. Jessie and Charlie had both looked jittery, visiting as they sat, while Ditzy kept glancing at the clock in Trixie's room, no doubt thinking about Dinky, and wondering when she should get back to her foal. Carrot Top knew this because she herself kept looking at the same clock, wondering when she could get back to her friends' fields. Plowing and planting and tending was simple. It wrote, and generally there was nothing around that to try to kill you. No golems, no evil princesses, no crazy zebras, no insane alicorns, no dragons, no demons, no liches. Carrot Top noticed that Trixie, looking at her. In the farmer put a small smile. "I think," she said, "I think things are going to be different from now on," she said. Trixie tapped her host together, looking down at him. "I think things have been different since the longest night, and it's only now just hitting us," she said. Every other time, everything happened to every pony." Carrot Top blinked, unsure what Trixie was getting at. Radars explained without opening her eyes. "The longest night was Corona striking every pony. Same with what happened to Ponyville when all our alcohol was poisoned. No salamanders weren't after us. We just happened to be there. And no pony in the night court wanted to kill us. But this was different." Carrot Top agreed, understanding now what Trixie had been driving at. "We were on Tambleon because we're the enemies." She looked down at her host, tracing a circle at the cushion beneath her with a point of 1. "This is how our lives are going to go from now on. Until we stop Corona," Charlie said. She was wearing a smile, but a surprising amount of force behind her words. She held up her element of laughter. That's what's going to happen. We have these for a reason. I'm sure of it. Carrot Top looked to her own element, worn around her neck. In hindsight, she wasn't even sure why she had brought it along. Luna hadn't asked him, after all. It was because of how much she had been running with stars above. Carrot Top thought, ice winding. Was all that only yesterday? She looked around to her friends. But today, I'm here at my friend's home. Like, it never happened. Excuse me, Carrot Top said, getting down from the couch. Heading for the two-way door to connect Trixie's living room to her dining room. More importantly, her kitchen. I just think I need to do something to get my mind off of everything. I think I'll stop making... Carrot Top reached her hoof out and pushed the door inwards. Found herself rewarded with the door thugging into something on the other side. Oh! Said Princess Luna Equestria, separated in the moon, caretaker in the sun, mistress of the star beast, sovereign of the three tribes, etc. Carrot Top froze as the door glowed blue with telekinesis, opening inwards and away from her, and revealing the princess, one hoof to her snout, rubbing where Carrot Top had hit it with the door. Part of Carrot Top noticed he did look particularly hurt. In fact, the same part of Carrot Top noted, given who this was, he probably wasn't hurt at all. This is the same being, after all, who spent most of yesterday dealing with Corona or Grogar. The exclamation had almost certainly been born for surprise, not pain. The rest of Carrot Top had simply begun an account of how long it would take for her to be banished to the Griffin Kingdoms. Most likely, with a complimentary apple shoved in her mouth, spit shoved into another part of her anatomy, and a nice salad on the side. Her heart was interrupted by Charlie a moment later, as the schoolteacher couldn't keep herself under control any longer. Her last were, in fact, hard enough to send her tumbling from the couch and onto the floor. That... She gasped out, that's so much better than what I thought would happen. Carrot Top wasn't really aware of Charlie. I am so sorry, she exclaimed, dancing forward. There's a first aid kit somewhere in here, I'm sure. Luna took her hoof away from her muzzle. It's fine, really. Accident! Didn't mean to! Didn't expect, so very sorry! Carrot Top, Dizzy tried, having come over to the farm and dripping wing over her. It's okay! The princess is fine! Something to you! Slam the door in your face, and now I just slam the door in your face! Luna closed her eyes and shook her head. A bemused smile on her face as she decided to wait out Carrot Top's little panic attack. It was in progress with Trixie coming up to her and offering her hat to breathe in and out of, lacking as they did a paper bag. Shirley got over her laughter and trotted over to her friend, alongside Raindrops and Lyra. Working together, the other 5 ponies got Carrot Top under control for a few minutes. I am so sorry, Carrot Top repeated once he last calmed down. Luna shook her head again. Accidents happen, indeed, Carrot Top. Don't worry. She said, "Don't look to the ponies at home. Brunch is ready." Carrot Top froze. Brunch? She asked. For the first time, she realized that the table in Trixie's dining room was fully appointed. More importantly, full of food. Loaves of bread, bowls of fruit, and vegetables and nuts. Full cheese wheel, jugs of milk and juice, eggs scrambled and boiled in every other form. Omelets and pancakes and pastries galore adorned the table. Enough food to feed a large party, it seemed. Carrot Top's stomach all but roared at the sight of it all, though, as he knew that the food wouldn't last long against the 6 ponies and 1 alicorn. Luna tried over to the right side of the table's head. She smiled at Carrot Top staring at her. I was busy as affairs of state keep me. I still had time to spare with a few thousand years to pick up hobbies. She explained, I am quite a cook when I want to be. Carrot Top strongly suspected that Luna would have been an awful cook. The meal would have nevertheless been just as enticing right now. Every pony piled around the table. Luna insisted Trixie take the table's head, since it was essentially her house, regardless of who technically owned it. The princess took to the meal just as feverishly as the 6 ponies. The portions she held to herself to rival in size only by Carrot Tops and Raindrops. This is what I thought you'd figure out about intentionally, Charlie said to Carrot Top as he ate. The princess is cooking us food. Carrot Top's eyes narrowed as she buried her bread roll that had been lightly seasoned with cinnamon. I think I could have handled that, she objected. So she admitted to herself that the odds were probably only 50-50. Shirley grinned. I needed to laugh, she said, to look to Princess Luna. No offense, Princess. The princess offered a warm smile of her own. nodding in understanding as he carefully salted the scrambled eggs in front of her, the kind of precision one expected from handling dangerous chemicals. Carrot Top remembered Trixie mentioning once that Luna was a picky eater, and indeed, while her portions were large, Carrot Top noticed that the princess's plate was fairly plain fare. I have been in more life and death struggles than I care to remember, Luna said after a moment. The first priority, on surviving them, is to find something afterwards to restore a sense of normalcy. Normalcy? Trixie asked after finishing drinking from a glass of orange juice. One eyebrow raised as he smirked. So, you're cooking for us. It's going to be a normal thing from now on. I'll get back to that. Relative normalcy, Luna apprehended. She went around in 6 ponies. Although, equally important is confronting what happened. We need to talk, I think. The mood around the table became somewhat more somber after that. Luna straightened herself up, collecting her thoughts. Put simply, she said, things did not go as planned. The 6 ponies took a moment to consider that. Depends on how you look at it, Raindrop said after a moment. We went there to stop Grogar. Grogar was stopped. That wasn't why we were there, though, Lyra pointed out. We wanted to figure out why the elements worked differently for us than they did for Princess Luna. We didn't. But that's not our fault, Dizzy objected. Corona hadn't shown up. She stopped again, wincing as she looked at the princess. Luna grimaced herself but nodded. It's Corona's fault, Dizzy began again. But maybe it's good that she showed up. She looked back to each of her friends. Things could have gone so much smoother if she hadn't been there. But I think her being here, being forced to work with us, changed her. Luna looked between them. I noticed that too, she said, though she shook her head. They're not enough. Whatever revelation she has had, she sees us determined as before to overthrow me and take control of the land. She looked at the 6 ponies. And with our power restored, we must be more vigilant than ever. As I said last night, I fear I will be putting you in harm's way more often from now on. She looked at each of the ponies, or more precisely to the element foci that still had near them. If there was some way to take the elements back, to keep you safe, I would take it. I'm sorry. There was silence for a few moments. Our lives are different now, Carrot said, shuffling a grape between her hooves. We're just going to have to learn how to deal with that. Luna nodded. She looked back down to her meal, picking at it for a few moments. You spent so much time with her. I know you never knew her before she... Luna shook her head. Tell me, did you see anything in her? Any sign of the mess she used to be? The 6 friends looked between each other. The first reaction had been to say no instantly. It was a reaction born of growing up with the stories of Corona, the tyrant son for their whole lives. But they checked themselves, thinking back to their time on Tambleon, their time with Corona. What they had realized about her was he had them at her total mercy, after they had betrayed her. How she hadn't harmed them. She had healed them. Somewhere, Dizzy said after a moment. I think she's in there somewhere. She looked to Luna. But she still has a long, long way to go. Luna considered for a moment, again focusing on her food rather than the ponies. After several long minutes, Carrot Top thought she saw a small file on her face. No, she wasn't, sir. I see, she said, taking a deep breath, then letting it out. She looked back up at every pony. Let's finish brunch, she said, and then we'll see what comes next. The crust of the earth was riddled with natural caves and caverns, air pockets and voids caused by the dried underground rivers, imperfections in stone, crystal growth, or even magical interference. It created a twisted maze like no other, full of dead ends, deadfalls, and loops. The deepest stretches even transcended solid stone and became a morass of magma flows that, as far as any being infested could tell, went just down and down forever, until a sheer crushing pressure created a deadly tomb from which there was little escape. These large domains could be traversed by a few mortal creatures, for obvious reasons related to the heat and pressure of flowing magma. Not to mention the lack of breathable air. But 2 creatures that could traverse such depths were salamanders and they could find an ingress large enough to accommodate them, dragons. This particular cavern was near the boundary that separates solid rock from liquid magma. 2 miles beneath the surface of the world. It was mostly empty space that was hundreds of feet across, its walls composed of rock and crystal. but a deep crevice that stretched out thousands of feet played host to an open wound in a cavern through which magma flowed freely. Though some of the quirk of its formation, the cavern was full of breathable air. Those current occupants, a quintet of salamanders, did not need to breathe to live. They did not need air in order to speak, however, as did their new master. The salamanders had been waiting for a better part of a week here in this void pocket. The prize contained within a piece of solid crystal that would not melt when transported through magma, and magically enhanced to keep its contents cool. Although the five had gone through unspeakable lengths in order to attain their prize, none of them were near it. None of them particularly wanted to be. They were afraid of it, rightly so. For all their fear, they feared the one that had sent them to attain it, their master even more. How much longer does he expect us to wait? The hero who led the salamanders demanded. He is doing this on purpose, making us suffer. One of the salamanders with him, Sarasa, slithered out to his leader. We should leave, he insisted. The whole tribe. The dragon can't hunt us down. No, but the Alicorn can. Bahir carried, shuddering as he remembered what Celestia had done to Queen Medusa. The dragon wants us Alicorns dead. He wants us dead, Sarasa exclaimed. We stole from him for years. Dragons do not forget such things. Bahir was all too aware of that, but he didn't want to see any alternative in the moment. His tribe was totally at the mercy of the Alicorn Celestia and the dragon Solar Carithron. Celestia was not immediately hostile to their continuing existence. Solar Carithron was, but Solar Carithron could not wipe them out, not while Celestia could easily kill him. Survival for their tribe of salamanders, then, depended entirely on playing the two against each other until an escape promised presented itself, or at least until they could make one. There was a noise from below. Salamanders started at it, though Bahir recovered quickly, going over the lip of the crevasse that led down to the magma appearing, climbing for the lava that was a massive red-scale floor. So looking on the red, possibly the eldest dread dragon in the world, there wasn't enough room to fly, but that wasn't an impediment for the dragon, as he climbed up to the crevasse with little effort. It wasn't long before he managed to lift himself out of the crevice. His gold, bright eyes didn't look directly at any of the salamanders, who were not so magical as to be perceived by the dragon. But his flaring nostrils told Bahir that the dragon was more aware of their presence. Whirl! Solar Carithron asked for after a moment, lips curling back. He had not forgotten that the salamanders had stolen from his hoard over years. So he chose not to act upon that fact, yet. Here slithered down, indicating the other four salamanders behind him to follow with the crystal box. We failed the Charon gates, he said. We bypassed the Guardian Hound. It wasn't easy, even for us. I do not care if it was easy, little thieves. Solar Carithron responded with a snort. Did you succeed? Bahir paused a moment, remembering the trek. To Tartaros, alternately a kingdom of a prison, and housed some of the greatest evils to ever torment the Barrel world. Sealed deep within the earth, guarded by an immortal monster, Cerberus. It's almost impossible for a mortal creature to gain entry. Of course, whoever had designed its defenses had, like so many others throughout history, forgotten the abilities of salamanders. Entering Tatara was possible only through the Charon Grates, but there's no reason why the Charon Grates had approached Tanlon. Salamanders had melted the stone nearby and slipped past Cerberus without the dog noticing. They entered the fabled and feared Midnight Castle through its dungeons, through dusty halls of forgotten passageways. Salamanders made their way to the throne in the cell to Dreadlord T-Rex. There, they had taken, without T-Rex noticing, for the demon had seemed drained and broken for some reason. Celeste opened the crystal box, and Bahir withdrew the item contained therein. It was once slick and clinging to the touch, with some kind of tar or oil. It pulsed like the beat of a heart. Its very sight seemed malignant and evil. Looking at Bahir wanted to do was throw it to the magma that lay below, damning the consequences to him. Bahir had to think more than just himself. The entire tribe of salamanders to protect. And so, when the dragon stretched out one palm up and waiting, Bahir did the only thing he could. He gave the rainbow of darkness to Celestia on the red. The dragon drew his claw up to his face, breathing it deeply. Seemed so such a simple thing. A bag, nothing more. To the touch, to the scent, but to his eyes it glowed, not with light, but absolute blackness. Celestron smiled. Excellent.
A week had passed since Celestia had ventured to Tambleon, and Celestia returned to her volcano lair after picking up Sakura and Solaris. The salamanders are still here. I'm fairly certain it was a different set than who had been when she had left. But as long as they were in the palace and ready to convey her commands to their tribe, she had little care for the individual ones who were in the palace. Solarath, too, had made himself scarce not long after Celestia had returned, was assessed as well. Celestia was in no mood for his false loyalty. Sakura had lingered, however, waiting on her as a loyal servant should, though Karan's orders had been few. She defeated Grogar, yes, but she had some rather eventful revelations about the nature of ponies in this day and age. Needed time to complicate those revelations the effects he would have on her plans to retake the throne. No armies, she said as he paced through the tunnels and her. No mercenaries, undeniable anyway. If we cannot march to war. Of course, O Queen, Sakura said. She sat at the base of the throne, observing Celestia. Flitting about in the roof of the chamber, meanwhile, were a number of phoenixes. The firebirds seemed drawn to Celestia, now according to their son, found their presence comforting. Now that she had decided not to risk repulsing them, despite their presence being a potential lead for her in finding her hidden palace. But then, how to defeat Princess Celine? To herself, Celestia admitted she was rather impressed. Sakura knew that title for Luna. It was archaic, even before Celestia had been trapped in the sun. Loud, however, she stopped next to one pile of treasure, which had a small sculpture of a throne. There are great and powerful artifacts scattered across the land, she said, reaching out a hawk and touching the throne. Powerful magic that can be bent to my will. I seem to recall a story of a mirror or a pool of water that create copies of whosoever entered it. Perhaps I could find what Luna did to my throne. It could not have been destroyed. Sakura bowed her head in acknowledgement. I will see what I can learn, your majesty. Celestia let you see what it led to the pause as Sakura's speech, thrown off her mirror. Saw the zebra stifling a second yawn. It was late, the Alcorn knew. Or rather, early, rather. It was nearly dawn. The Alcorn made a sleeping motion with one wing. Go, Sakura, sleep. All my previous plans have been thrown into chaos. I will call for you when I have created new ones. The zebra bowed gratefully, tried it off. Celestia watched her go for a moment, grunted, assuming her pacing. She was restless. Grogar had been defeated, yes, but not by her elf. The element bearers, the ponies, had destroyed the lich. Part of Celestia didn't care how much Grogar had been destroyed, only that he had been. But another part of her could only shake her head in disappointment, not at the ponies, but herself. The simple fact was that the ponies who currently bore the elements were mortal. Even if they could defeat any being who rose to challenge them, they had only what? 50, 60 years left of them? Less if one of them took ill. Then what would happen to the elements? What would protect Equestria then? Scattered amongst six ponies, they were so vulnerable. She needed the throne. She needed the power to protect every pony, to keep them safe. Why couldn't they see that? Why couldn't Luna realize that? Celestia grunted again, looking to the doors of her palace. After a moment's consideration, her horn glowed, and she teleported outside, into the night air above. Stretching her wings, the Alcorn soared around the dormant volcano she currently called home. At length, finding a cloud large enough to accommodate her and settling down to it, making sure to quell the flames of her mane and tail before doing so. The cloud was cool, and so too was the night air. It was a welcome respite, she supposed, from the heat of a caldera. Fire didn't burn her no matter how hot, but it could become tiresome. Celestia's eyes looked up at the stars overhead, and the moon on the distant western horizon. Her sister really did have enormous eyes. When I counted millennia, the constellations, persistence of the stars, hadn't really changed. Yet Luna managed every night to make more brilliant than the last, each one a unique gift to her ponies below. She felt somewhere in her heart pain. She looked to the moon. Why can't you understand? She said aloud, though her voice was nevertheless low. You say you want to help me. That is all I want to do for ponies. I want to help. Why can't you see that? The moon didn't respond, of course. Luna couldn't hear her. Right now, the Lunar Princess would be in Canterlot, guiding the moon down below the horizon, making a way for the sun. Celestia closed her eyes, remembering back when the two of them would stand side by side, perform a secret duty together. Somewhere it had all gone wrong. When Luna had stopped showing up to the balcony room, more than 1,000 years ago, she still lowered the moon, but kept herself isolated. That should have been Celestia's hint. Something was wrong with her sister. The moon and the stars sailed beyond the horizon. Celestia sighed, turning east, waiting for her sister to raise the sun. Her sun. She could battle for control of it, but doing so would be violent. It would cause the sun to swing wildly throughout the sky, oscillating behind horizons, drawing closer to the world below and being pushed away. Celestia had no doubt she would return to the end. It was her son, but she equally had no doubt it would be a contest measured in days rather than minutes or hours. She didn't want to frighten her little ponies that much, cause so much unnecessary destruction to their lives. Alcora's son paused. She realized he had been contemplating for several minutes. Several entire minutes of where the moon remained beyond the horizon. No sign of sun in the east, save for a faint glow. Celestia stood upon her cloud, gazing east. What was Luna? Cautiously, Celestia set her horn alight, reached out towards the sun. She found it easily enough. How could she not? Just as easily, felt Luna's power touching it as well. Only the barest amount, enough to hold on to it but not move it. Celestia spread her magic through the sun. Luna's receded. It was a retreat, however, more like Luna was passing to her. Celestia was still for several long moments, unsure this was a trick, a trap of some kind. But after waiting for 3 full minutes without Luna appearing beside her in a flash of the elements, ready to devour her, Celestia realized what it really was, a gesture of faith. Was Celestia beginning to get through to Luna? Convinced her that what she was really doing was right? Was her sister finally beginning to accept she couldn't rule Equestria alone, and only Celestia had the strength to be queen? But that she would be eternally happy to have Luna rule beneath her as princess? Celestia closed her eyes, spread her wings wide, horn glowing brighter. Thank you, little sister, she said, beating her wings and rising to the sky, the sun following her ascent. The outpour of the sun didn't know Luna's motivation, but she did know she and Luna were ever going to resolve their distances. If Celestia was ever going to show Luna she was right, sooner or later they were going to have to trust each other more than just whenever there was a monster that needed battling. You might as well start here, with the dawn of a new day. I'm torn with this fic, it should be told. I don't know if it was because 2 years had come and gone and hit me hard, or if this was a problem that I already wanted to go through. Fundamentally, basics and everything else that's important. The story's good. It's great. It's a fun little adventure tale where the Lunaverse 6 go in, they find Grogar, they stop him, they have a little character development. Well, actually, mostly Celestia has character development, and the story moves on from there. Everybody's character's great. Trixie's still snarky, Charlie's still funny, Dixie's still a mother trying to deal with all this. There are some good points for the characters, pointing out Celestia's own follies. And Celestia has some great moments too, and we're seeing more and more of Celestia that we know from canon. All of that is great. But there's a small part of me that feels like this came at a cost of storytelling and character, in a way. I don't know what it is. I'm guessing it wasn't just time, but it was due to the fact that I had just finished for over the past few years a bunch of fics, like the One Piece crossover, the Wonder Woman story, Viking, so many dang blasted fics that push the mains to the side. that said, you're not good enough to hang out with us. Stay over there. I focused on something else. And if it wasn't that, it was focusing on Luna and Celestia. And don't get me wrong, I love them. They're great characters. I love seeing them, and I love it when authors really give them a chance to shine. My problem is, I think we see why Celestia and Luna get dwarfed so often, and why they are pushed aside. I know this was mocked by Rainbow Dancing Canon. However, the joke loses something when you take a step back and remember something important. Something deadly important. Rainbow, I'm sorry to tell you this, but this is not Celestia and Luna's story. This is the story of you girls. You girls move the plot. And I think that's the central problem I have with this story. I felt like Trixie and her friends, the main characters, were just the delivery girls. The only reason that they were there was because they could use the elements. I mean, I've been thinking about this while I was rereading this. What exactly did any of them do that could not have been done by Celestial Luna other than just fire the rainbow laser? If Grogar had not been turned into a lich and Celestial Luna took him out, nothing would have changed. And it's a problem that annoys me. And it goes back to what I just said. This is not Luna's story. I'm not watching this show to watch Celestial drop an A-bomb on Chrysalis. I'm not watching the show to watch Celestia waltz right through all of T-Rex's minions, slicing them one by one with Theater going, hey, bitch, come get some. Let me put it this way. I'm not watching Naruto to watch the third Hokage kick butt. I want to see Naruto strive and struggle. I'm not here to watch Serena's mother fight. I want to see Usagi beat Galaxia through kindness of heart. And the same goes for here. I'm not here to watch the girls just basically be the deliverers of the elements, or Luna grab the element of magic and throw it right to Trixie. I kind of want Trixie to grab that. But maybe that's just how I work. I'm personally of the mind of no gods, no leaders, only men. I get annoyed when god characters step in and hog their glory. I get tired of seeing. I don't like seeing a kill stealer god step in and go, ha ha! No. I'm the fighter who wants to rise above that. I'm not playing an RPG where I just go, oh please, somebody save me. I don't want to be the person standing back and watching that happen. I want to be Tara Branford. I want to be the girl that stares down Kefka, looking him straight in the eye and go, you're going down. I want to be Cloud Stripe. I want to be Vaughn. And having Celestia and Luna do most of the fighting, do most of the devastation, and doing all of that just takes it away. And it leaves me asking a question I don't think I should be asking when it comes to this. Why am I even bothering? Why am I bothering caring about them? Why am I bothering sitting here reading about them when apparently we really can't just let Luna take over? Because with this pilot, it feels like we're officially saying the only purpose they have are to be element lasers. They don't have this purpose of being fighters. And what's interesting when I say this is I've seen so many people complain that they don't want the main characters to be important. They do just want people like Twilight and Trixie just to be element lasers. They do just want them to sit back while we let the gods take over. But that's not me. I want to see mortals surpassing gods. I want to see humans rise up. Am I saying I would have preferred this story without Luna and Celestia? Oh, hell yeah! I mean, I understand why. Celestia needed to show that there was more sides to her. I get why that would happen. I get that there needed to be a sense of trust forming between Luna and Celestia so Celestia's redemption could work. I get that. But it shouldn't come at the cost of either Trixie or Luna. Maybe if, I don't know, maybe if Celestia was weakened and turned to a mortal pony by Grogar and just had the Lunaverse 6 hint work with her, and then there was a anti-magic barrier, then Celestia got her powers up. I'd be fine. But not having Celestia have a fight with the Lich. Maybe if Luna stayed out of this and Celestia and Luna had their own little mini adventure, I would have been fine. And it pains me to say this because, again, fundamentally and cohesively, this is a great, good story. It's just the themes are hurting it. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna stop reading, and then I'm not selling on the hate the Lunaverse bandwagon because it seems like I'm the only one who does any reviews of the second season. I swear, have you seen? Everybody only reviews the first season. Nobody ever goes beyond that. But I will say this: it is annoying, and I do hope that this isn't a sign of annoyances to come. Or is this going to be the opposite of how I feel with the show canon? Where the two-parters, the adventures, are my favorites, and I just laugh at the side stories, or uh, the pilots and the big adventures are going to be the dull ones, and I just like the slice of life stuff. Well, after this little pondering, I think we need to move to something a little more silly. See you then.